We go out to the fan hotline. Our next guest joins us from Columbus as he's getting ready for kickoff between Ohio State and Texas. Bill Landis, co-host of the Bill and Doug Show with our friend Doug Lamarice as well. Bill, we really appreciate you giving us some time this morning, my man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. I'm just here hanging out in Ohio Stadium, getting ready for what I think will be a pretty exciting game.
No doubt about it. Everyone is curious, Bill, of course, with what Julian Sayin is going to showcase today. I know you guys on the beat only get bits and pieces of practice leading up to the season. I know it was reported as a legitimate competition between him and Lincoln Keenholz. So I guess what is the expectation that fans should have for Julian Sayin as the Buckeyes starting quarterback this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Like, I'm sure the expectations are crazy high because of sort of the lineage of quarterback play here. I guess I would remind people, C.J. Stroud in his first start at Minnesota in 2021 played fine, I think, and also played probably better in the second half of that game than he played in the first half of that game. But he had a little bit of a feeling out process to get used to just the speed of things. And that was on the road. This is at home for Julian, but Texas is obviously much better than that Minnesota team was, and they'll be faster. So he might have to work his way through some stuff. I'm curious to see, what exactly the early game plan is. Do they come out throwing to try to get Julian into a rhythm and settle him in? Do they come out running and trying to protect him a little bit and make him not feel like the entire game is on his shoulders? Ryan Day, when he goes into big games, he always talks about sort of like, we're going to let it rip. We're not going to hold anything back. He said similar things going into this Texas game. So and the strength is the receiver. So I could see them coming out here and kind of letting Julian kind of show us what he can do. And it's funny to me that, I realize that Arch Manning's last name is Manning, but these are two former five-star quarterbacks who are kind of doing this thing for the first time. Arch has starts under his belt, but he's played 3 true road snaps, and he's never played a team like Ohio State on a consistent basis. So I think we're going to learn a lot about both quarterbacks today.
So, Bill, this isn't your typical Youngstown State, Kent State Week 1 opponent for Ohio State. And with them losing a lot of big playmakers to the draft, how does Ryan Day prepare his team for a game like this Week 1?
I think he likes it. Would he prefer a 1 tune-up game? Maybe, but I think when you have a team like Texas in Week 1, and it was similar when Ohio State opened against Notre Dame in 2022, it just gives you that immediate target in the first game that I think sets a different tone for training camp. So I don't know that Ryan Day had to do anything differently to get his team ready for this game, because the game sort of speaks for itself. And there's a lot of guys on this team, to your point, like they lost 14 NFL draft picks and a couple of other seniors. There are a lot of juniors on this team who were part of last year's championship run, but none of them really in starting roles except for Carnell Tate. Like, those guys are eager to get out on the field and show people what they can do and show people that they're just as good as the class that left that 2021 recruiting class. So I don't know. I'm sure that camp was more ratcheted up and Ryan Day had more energy, but I think this team is probably more self-motivated than anything else to put their best foot forward and show people that Ohio State hasn't taken a step back.
Bill Landis joining us on the show. Speaking of taking a step back, Bill, when a team has so much turnover like Ohio State did, there's bound to be just some natural regression in certain areas. I don't think anyone's worried about the wide receiver room. I don't think most people are worried about the secondary. Obviously, they're two of the best players in the country are returning in each of those groups respectively. But what areas are there maybe the most questions as this team gets ready to play a full season and try to chase a repeat as a champion?
I think the 2 spots where it's going to be difficult to be as good as Ohio State was last year are running back and defensive line. Not to say that Ohio State will be bad in either spot, but Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson were awesome last year, especially in the postseason run. And Ohio State had a plan throughout the regular season to try to keep those guys fresh so they would be at their best in the postseason. And they were both running the ball. But even if you go back and watch the Cotton Bowl against Texas last year, some of the blocks those guys threw in that game were crazy, and they were both really good throughout the year without the ball in their hands. So they set a high standard for guys like James Peoples and C.J. Donaldson, the transfer from West Virginia, who were kind of stepping up into the 1A and 1B running back roles this year. I think you could see the freshman Bo Jackson play a little bit. Maybe not in this game because it's such a marquee matchup, but I think over the course of the year he'll get some touches too. But I'm eager to see just like how big the gap is between the 2 running backs who just left and the guys who were stepping up And then the defensive line has guys who have played. Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry are in their fourth year. They've been kind of primary backups at defensive end for 2 years, so they're not inexperienced, but they've never been asked to do what they're going to be asked to do this year, which is play at a high level for 50, 60 snaps a game. I'm pretty excited about the defensive tackles. Like those guys have big shoes to fill because Tyleik Williams was very good, and Ty Hamilton was I think probably a little bit underrated as a player the last couple of years of defensive tackle, but Caden McDonald and Edric Houston, I think, just have super high ceilings. So there's some worry about the depth behind those guys, but I think the starting tackle tandem with time, not to say it's going to happen in game one, but with time, I think could be maybe just as good as those guys were last year.
Bill, is it fair to expect a good game from Arch Manning, or are we going to have to kind of wait toward later in the year to see his true talent that we've all been hyping up all offseason?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I was in digging into what Arch has done thus far. He has only played in one true road game. It was last year at Texas A&M. He played 3 snaps in that game. He's played in some big games. Obviously, he got on the field for 1 snap against Ohio State last year. He played a little bit against Georgia a couple of times that Texas played them last year. But even though he has 2 starts under his belt, that's great. That's certainly worth something. This is an entirely new ask for Arch, and I would probably approach this game for him the same way I'm approaching for Julian Sayin. I'm not expecting a coming out party necessarily for either guy, because I think also certainly Texas's strength is its defense, and I think in this first game, Ohio State's strength will probably be its defense too. So maybe I'll be wrong and Arch is ready to go and he'll have a couple touchdowns and he'll use his legs and be dangerous in that way too. But I do think that both these quarterbacks are going to get out there and see a bunch of stuff for the first time. That's probably going to hold back a 100% kind of coming out party.
Bill, I know for Ohio State fans, the expectation is always going to be that championship. I know Jeremiah Smith is talking like that, talking about repeating and all these different things, which is tough to do. But from your perspective, after winning it last year, what constitutes a successful season for the Buckeyes in 2025?
Beat Michigan, start there,
yeah.
And then get back to the playoff. I think. I think they'd love. Well, I don't know what the Big Ten championship means anymore in this new era of college football. But it's been a while. It's been a while since Ohio State has been there and played for it. So that could be maybe a nice cherry to this season. But I think they have the pieces to get back to the playoff and potentially go on a run. And even if you look at the history of college football, there aren't a lot of repeat national champions, but there have been a lot of defending national champions that have gotten pretty close to repeating. Either getting to the championship game and losing or kind of being in the mix at the end of the season. And with the expanded playoff, obviously that's a little easier now. So I think it's correct to consider Ohio State a national title contender. I wouldn't pick them to win it just because it is hard to actually repeat. But I don't know, if Julian Sayin's ready in year one, because even compare him to C.J. Stroud, by the end of C.J. Stroud's first year starting, I think he was ready to lead a team that's trying to compete for a championship. And I sort of expect the same thing from Julian with the weapons that he has around him. So it's certainly not national championship or bust. It's probably always playoff or bust here. So I think anything that gets them back to the playoff with a win against Michigan would have to be considered a successful season.
Which program and which coach do you feel like has more pressure on them to win this week 1 game?
Texas. I don't think it's close. Because Steve Sarkisian is kind of entering that kind of Ryan Day, James Franklin window of you're good, your team's good, you recruit well, you have a bunch of talent, can you actually get over the hump and win it all kind of thing. And, Texas can still get to the playoff and compete for a national championship even if they lose today. But coming off a season where, the 3 best teams they played last year, Georgia twice and Ohio State, they lost all 3. I think a lot of people are wanting to see Texas prove that it is the best team in the country, and Ohio State, you're not really playing with house money in Columbus, because if Ohio State loses today, people will want to burn the program down. I understand that, but I just think all of that sort of intangible pressure is on Texas going into this game.
Just a couple more minutes here with Bill Landis, of course, one half of the Bill and Doug show with our good friend Doug Lamarice here in Cleveland. As they cover Ohio State. They're on the beat every day. Bill, the whole banning Dave Portnoy thing became such a hot topic this week. It was a big he said, she said type thing. I don't know if you have any insight into actually what happened there, but my bigger question in this is, even with the Buckeyes winning the national championship last year, this moment, this entire thing this week just kind of felt like it was still Michigan being in their heads in an unhealthy way. Similar to what Nick Saban, I guess, said the other day on ESPN about it. Like, do you feel like that is still the case and that sort of played out this week with the way that whole thing was handled?
Yeah, I don't know, because it's not. I don't think it's that Dave Portnoy's a Michigan fan, right? Like, Desmond Howard's clearly a Michigan fan, and I know Ohio State fans don't like him, but it's not like Desmond Howard's not banned from being on set in Columbus. It's more like the personal attacks that Dave Portnoy had against Ryan Day and the stuff like about his brother and private investigators. It was all BS last year. Like, and like he can say that, that's fine. He can say whatever he wants, even if it's not true. But I certainly understand why the program wouldn't want a person who does that to be in their stadium, if that was the choice that Ohio State made. I actually don't know who made the ultimate call on that. It seems like, PR minds got together and did a good job of making sure it didn't look like it was Ohio State in the end who did that. But if you combine like sort of the personal attacks with the fact that Portnoy is, for all intents and purposes, like a Michigan booster, like that is a degree past like Ohio State, having some sort of mental block when it comes to Michigan. I don't think that's untrue. I do think they have to figure out mentally how to handle that game better than they have the last 4 years, but I don't know that I would include the Portnoy stuff as part of that.
I will say I saw on social media that Dave Portnoy's wearing a hat today that says "I heart Ryan Day." So I don't know if this is his way of trying to mend fences or what, but it's probably just him trolling. I'll get you out of here with this, Bill. And again, very thankful for the time. First, I want to know: do you think Lee puts on the Brutus head? And then I want to know what your prediction for the game is today.
Man, wouldn't it be so funny if he put on the Texas head for his last? No, I think so. He's going to be in the stadium for that. They're going to put him up on the video board for that. I fully expect him to put on the Brutus head and bring his career full circle from the first time he did it.
Yeah.
And my pick, I picked Ohio State, a 24-21, I think. So I have a low scoring, close game. I think it's for as much talk as there's been Arch and Julian Sayin, I think not to be boring, it kind of comes down to the line of scrimmage. And I think Texas's defensive line is very good on the edges, but I have questions about them on the interior. They have 4 new offensive line starters, and I think Ohio State's defensive line, while new, has experience, and I think it's going to be loud in here. I think Texas will probably have to go on a silent count, and I just don't know if that's conducive to Texas like playing at its absolute best up front, and I think that's probably where the difference is made for Ohio State.
He's Bill Landis. Follow him if you don't already on X at Bill Landis25. Does a tremendous job covering the Buckeyes, and he's obviously one half of the Bill and Doug show, the podcast that he and Doug Lemarese do together. Bill, so grateful for the time, my man. I'm sure we'll catch up throughout the season, but enjoy the game today, and we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Bill.
Good stuff from Bill Landis on the Fan Hotline.